So, what is deep inside of us? Most of us have been taught that what is deep inside of us is not acceptable. Most of us have been taught that we are sinners, that we are broken, that we are somehow separate from God. It is one of the teachings that is part of every religion I have ever studied. And believe me, guys, I have done some church hopping. The idea that we're somehow separate from nirvana. To this version of the story, the serpent, which has long been a symbol of wisdom, is the divine feminine wisdom. So Sophia, who is wisdom, is the snake in the garden whose kid, Yahweh, has his little pets in there. Those little humans. They're really cute. They're kind of like gerbils. But they're living in a perfect world, in a static world, a world in which they can never grow. They cannot explore. They cannot do anything different. And so, Sophia, wisdom, has us experience separation so that we can realize that it's not real. Allows us to weigh good and evil. You remember the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Not actual good and evil, but just the knowledge about good and evil. So that we may come to a place within ourselves where we realize that we are inherently divine, inherently good, inherently wise. How many things have you had knowledge of that simply are not so? I mean, anytime you hop on the internet at this point. There's a lovely quotation that's floating around right now that says things, something to the effect of, not everything you read on the internet is true, and it's attributed to Abraham Lincoln. So not everything you read in sacred scripture should be read as if it was other than a teaching story. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, parables are used a lot. Teaching stories are used a lot. Why would their sacred book be any different? And so I ask you, whether you believe in the history part or not, does not matter to me. Whether you take it in and take it deeper, and probably take that class with Hazel, that matters. Because that means you're taking these wisdom stories and applying them to your life to see where they might be of use to you. So this month, our theme is Holy, Holy Uprising. And by holy, holy, I mean completely sacred. Holy, W-H-O-L-L-Y, holy, H-O-L-Y. A completely sacred uprising requires us to trust that voice that is deep within to know what we're doing and where we're going. Because have you ever disagreed strongly with a group of people that you love and admire and had that voice in the back of your head going, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't know if by rebelling against XYZ, I might be making things worse. I might be making a horrible, soon-to-be very embarrassing mistake. When we are having a holy, holy uprising, we might well be rebelling against the God we were raised with. How's that for scary? When you get sent to your room by God, it's not like you'll be let out eventually, or this is your room in which all of your books and the bed you wanted to take a nap in and your Nintendo are already in. That's the room we wanted to be sent to in the first place, right? So when we have a holy, holy uprising, we have to trust. I know this is the tough one for most of us. We have to trust that being that lives in our skin, that some people call the divine self, to know what he, she, it, they, us are doing. And we have to do it while in our human self, we may not know what exactly we're doing. One of the things that I remember having a conversation about in my early days in ministerial school, as a matter of fact, I had a conversation with my minister. And we were talking about the phrase, everyone is welcome here. Can we agree with the idea that everyone is welcome here? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, yes. If you're online, I didn't hear you, but you can type it into the chat. What if, and this is how far we took it, somebody in full Klan regalia walked in? And by Klan, I don't mean they're wearing tartan kilts. I mean bed sheets with the pointy hat, yes. What if they walked in? Would they be welcome here? Actually, at the time, we talked about Nazis. If somebody came in a full Nazi uniform, and they weren't kidding, it wasn't a Halloween costume, I just felt the energy. I don't know about you guys online, but the energy in here just went, oh, she's doing it again. She's doing that thing where she just begs the question and takes it to an extreme that's redonkulous. Okay, deep breath. Everybody breathe, and now you're allowed to breathe out again too. You see, in this teaching, we get real. In this teaching, we tell the truth. I'm reading a biography about Anna Holmes called The Mother of a Mystic. She was actually the mother of 10 of them. She ended up with a couple ministers and a couple of business people, but she had all sons. And Ernest Holmes was the youngest. Ernest Holmes literally wrote the book on science of mind. He wrote several books, and he founded this philosophy. As I'm reading it, I notice that they lose the farm that's been in her family for generations. And it just states that as a fact, that it doesn't talk about how she felt about it. As I'm reading it, it kind of hints that Mother Holmes wasn't crazy about the cousins that let Ernest Holmes read that guy Emerson, who was a rabble-rouser, who had been thrown out of Harvard. Yes, he was. As a matter of fact, if you read Emerson's address to the divinity students at Harvard, that's the talk that got him banned for 20 years. He was a rabble-rouser. He was not well-behaved. He would fit in here really well. And not just because we quote him so much. Mother Holmes was not excited to hear all of this science of mind stuff until Holmes was reading Emerson and reading Mary Baker Eddy's work, which was one of the few things published at the time, and he healed her heart condition. She had been having heart pains, chest pains. Her life was actually in danger. And he ran the experiment and healed her. But we don't hear how many of her sons fought in World War I or World War II. We don't hear how they felt about, she was actually born while slavery was still legal in this country. She was around for the Great Depression. We don't hear them talk about that stuff. There's a lot of stuff they didn't talk about back then, and it certainly doesn't make it into our books. And so one of my challenges is that as a minister, I compare my insides to Ernest Holmes' outsides. Once his books have been edited, once it's all been cleaned up, and you don't hear about the time he couldn't get the lid off the jar of pickles, and so he dropped it and it broke and everything. I'm just making this up right now, by the way. We don't know what it looked like when he lost his temper. At some point in his life, he must have lost his temper, right? At some point in his life, he must have been awkward. At some point in his life, he must have ticked some people off. As a matter of fact, if you read the biography he had his brother write, and he trusted his brother to tell the truth, he used to tick off his congregation all the time. How? By going outside of their church or outside of the theater where he was speaking and bringing in people who were still drunk from the night before and smelled like it. I seem to remember that he would bring in prostitutes. And oh, didn't that cause talk? There was a rumor that his wife Hazel wrote his talks for him, which is funny because nobody wrote his talks for him. He would stand up and just start talking. These are the things we don't talk about. But I tell you, these are the things that most people deal with on a daily basis, and most people need to talk about. In this date and age, right here, right now, we talk about these things. We have a huge conversation going on in our movement around diversity, which means that I make some people uncomfortable by talking about race issues, by talking about the homeless, by talking, people experiencing homelessness. Let's not label them as if that was the only thing that was important. I talk about things like money and religion. And oh my God, once we were told we had to talk about sex. Guys, when I took sex ed, it was with Sister Veronica, the principal of my school. There were no questions asked during that class. And I grew up thinking guys got periods too. There are some questions that should be asked. There are some subjects that, while uncomfortable, must be opened up. There's a lot of different opinions about whether we wear masks, whether we open the center completely, whether it's safe to get the shot. I got it. I'm still up here, and I'm as sane and normal as I was before I got the shot, which some people would say doesn't say much, but that's okay. So how do we know when we have this holy, holy uprising, how do we know we're going down the right path? Ernest Holmes was very clear. When he was asked how we would know what it was okay to pray for, he would say, you won't know. You already do know. This is not a future tense knowing. If you listen within your own heart and mind, you will hear your truth. For some of us, it's deep inside. It's that still small voice. Other people have figured out that they need to sit their butts in their prayer chairs and turn up the volume on that. I know I'm in trouble when I look at my prayer chair and would rather do dishes or clean the bathroom. The bathroom is actually worse than the dishes. Dishes means I got to eat something first, right? So you won't know, you do know. How do we work with that? We trust the principles, we know our values, and then we trust the process. Principles, spiritual principles, are things like God is all there is. Or as Sue Scherer, one of our practitioners, would say, only good can come of this. Now, there are people who would say that's kind of shaming or whatever. You can't say only good can come of this, or there's a reason for this. Everything happens for a reason. When I say only good can come of this, that is a demand. I am making my demand upon the universe that not only will something good come of this, but when it's all said and done, the amount of benefit to whatever pain in the hiney thing I'm going through right now, only good will come of this. By the time it's over, I'm going to be so happy it happened. Maybe not right now. I've had a lot of experience these past couple weeks with, oh, no, I don't know the password to that incredibly important program. No, I don't actually know the last 4 digits of every single checking account that we have. No, I don't know what the secret question answer is so that we can get into payroll. Thank God for Nina, who at least will laugh at me while I'm freaking out. Nina is our treasurer and has been putting in hours and hours on our behalf, taking care of the numbers. So I just want to thank you for that right now. There's a reason I did not become a numbers person. I can tell you how I feel about them. My degree is in psychology, the first one. What I can tell you is spiritual principle says God is fully present in this moment no matter how I feel about God right now. No matter how I feel about this moment right now. Another spiritual principle says love is the truth between all beings. And so it is love that picks up the phone and calls the help desk. It is love that says, you know, I keep thinking about this one person. I need to call them and make sure they're okay. And if they tell me they're okay, I need to call them and we just need to do coffee because it sounds like fun. Does that make sense? Does anyone else have that happen where they're just like, that person keeps popping up in my mind, what do I do with this? That is love poking on your shoulder saying, call them, or text them, or write them, or at least pray for them. I don't know why I say at least. That's the most powerful thing you could be doing. So we trust in principle. We remember what our values are. Does anyone know our stated values in this center? You can type them into the comments on Facebook if you'd like. But who in this room remembers what they are? You've all seen them today if you walked into this building. Just yell them out because I can't read your lips right now. Joy. Love. Inclusivity and spiritual growth. Those are our values. And so when we make decisions about masks and where chairs go and how open we are and who we're going to hire to work in the front office, we go back to our values. Is this person joy-filled? Are we acting out of love when we spend our money? When we do our budget and look at who do we take care of? Where do we place value? Inclusivity. Are we going to make it so that if you speak Spanish, you are comfortable in this room? ¿Hay alguien aquí quien habla español? Hay uno, una. Dos, y él me entiende. Now, for some of you, that might have been a little uncomfortable because you didn't know what I was saying. I might have been telling you to go milk your pencil. For all I know, that is what I said. Pero, we have the book in Spanish. I keep coming back to, I will find time to get fluent. We will have circles in Spanish. If you are online and you want a circle in Spanish, I will do everything I can to support you. Just email me. And if you can figure out how to get online, you can figure out how to email me. I have faith. These are things we do because we value inclusivity. We don't get uncomfortable and take classes that push our buttons just because it's fun and we're masochists. It's because we value spiritual growth, because we're willing to go through whatever it takes to heal those things in us that are holding us back. That belief in limitation, that we can only have so much good. It's a false belief. It's bad information. It's bad data that's crept into our basic programming. It's not true. And yet I found myself in my prayer chair this morning trying to get past a worthiness issue. Trying to say, even if I did win the lottery and could fund this place fully and do everything I want, what if nobody shows up? So I'm very grateful to all of you guys right now, because otherwise I'd be talking to myself. And I'm very, very grateful to anyone who's watching this right now, because even if I never know about you, my personal values require me to be of service. My personal values are abundance, service, oneness, and integrity. I almost said inclusivity, but that's the major one. I must be of service in my life, otherwise why bother? I will have abundance because I deserve it. And it's much easier to help people when you've got something you can offer. I believe in oneness. Every part of me is divine, and I am one with all of you, all of your divinity. And that is how I heal the feeling of being alone sometimes. Anyone else ever felt very alone or lonely? No, nobody in this room. and my integrity is sacred to me. I would rather lose my job. I would rather you guys decide I am not the minister for you than to go against what I know is my calling. And that is why I'm still here. Because if I didn't have any integrity, you guys had fired me ages ago, and you should have. So this is how we know how to make decisions, how to get the broad strokes in there. And then what do? We trust the process. We go to our prayer chair every day, even on the days it feels like, we can't actually get to our prayer chair, so the sofa's going to have to do. That's as far as we're going to get. Maybe the best you could do is roll over in bed and stare out the window or at the ceiling and think, God is all there is, and I hate that. Life is eternal, and that's bad news today. But I'm going to speak some affirmations, and I'm going to do my best to speak them as if I believe them, and I am going to stretch into a greater understanding of the magnificence of my own soul, because even if I can't feel it right here, I know it to be true. Even if I'm having trouble knowing it to be true about me, I can think of the grandchild. I can think of Seamus, who's one of our kids, and little Estelle. Are they anything less than beautiful? Okay, nobody in here said, well. We allow that divinity to show up for us, and we trust that it is always showing up for us. There is a song by Eddie Watkins Jr. that we sing here sometimes called All Is Well and Unfolding as It Should. Everybody knows that song? Okay. Jackson and I have a running joke, where on some Sundays it's all is well, and some Sundays it's all is well. Well, we know that we're probably dealing with stuff that's been dealt with in other centers, and therefore it can be dealt with. Maybe it doesn't look like God in this moment. Maybe it's that very disturbing energy of someone walking in who doesn't look like us, smell like us, act like us, speak like us, and yet we want to welcome them in because we know that this too is God. I can't tell you how many times when I was working for the public defender, I walked down the hallways of the courthouse going, okay, God, where is God in this? Where is God in this? Where is God in this? I just sat with somebody who kidnapped a child and did horrible, unspeakable things. Where is God in this? I just sat with somebody who was a stalker or stole or did some violent crime or is just a jerk. Rude. Believe me, when people are unhappy, they get rude. And people who have been accused of heinous things are generally not happy. Do you know that in San Diego there is a direct line from the phones in jail to what used to be my desk? Not only could was I the only person they could call for free from inside the jail, their mamas called me too. And somehow, do you know it was my fault that a 54-year-old male was in jail again rather than getting treatment for his drug addiction? And his mother wanted me to know about it? I will never forget that phone call. I thought she meant to call the juvenile department. But no, he's 54. Where was God in that? God was in that I picked up the phone and I had just heard a talk on compassion. God was in that space, in that time, in that as I said to the women I worked with, at the end of the day, we go home and they have to stay with themselves. You go home and be very nice to you so you can come back and have compassion for them tomorrow. Because one of my values was to see the oneness, the divinity of even our clients at the public defender's office, and I hadn't made the list of values yet. I was just living them. I hadn't actually written them down. So, we know our values, we know spiritual principle, we trust the process. As we speak things into being, as I will it, so mote it be, it is done unto me according to my belief. As I choose to remember that it's all God, it must show up in the world around me. And that is how we can have a holy, holy uprising, even on the days where it's a little scary, or it may not look like God, or things get messy. That is how we can say all is well and there's no question mark. Yes? Okay, so if you can say yes to that, we will say a bigger yes with prayer. And it is my joy to come back down here and pray. We're all on an even praying field when I'm here. Because although the words are coming through me, this is Spirit coming through you as well. Yes? Okay. So go within in whatever way works for you. Maybe you just do a soft gaze at the floor. Or you close your eyes and open your inward eye. Hear with that inner ear for a moment and take these words for yourself, even when I speak in the first person. God is. God is all there is, every time, every place, for everyone. God is absolute, pure, and perfect love. God is the divine within every single being that is or has ever been on this planet or any other. No matter what they look like on the outside, God is showing up in every being. God is in every situation. God is the energy of life itself. So where there is life or light, where truth is spoken, that is God at work. And where truth is taught through its opposite, that too is the divine. And in this time and place, in this teaching, what I know is that we are divine beings in human form who have chosen to be born for such a time as this. And so I speak my word for all of us as we stand in our truth, as we find the courage, as we recognize spiritual principle and stand in the conviction of the pure and perfect truth that God is all there is, that love is the truth between all of us, and as we expand our horizons, there will be nothing to find beyond that old horizon except more God, except more good. That Spirit's will for us is always for more life. We are here that we may have life and have it even more abundantly. And so I call in abundance, abundant health, abundant financial well-being, abundant friends, abundant joy in the family, abundant sense of how loved we are. We are each the beloved of the beloved. And so standing in this truth, I know that all of the old bad data simply falls away like shadows in the face of the light. That which no longer serves us simply goes back into the nothingness from which it came. And we create anew life and love and joy and good that is even more abundant than we have ever imagined in the past. And sitting within this, resting within this with a grateful heart, I allow it all to be perfectly. And I allow Spirit to do the work. And so I release this word to the lawn, knowing it's already done, and so it is.